What's up everyone, Andrew Baena here, and on today's video we are going to be taking a look at this. This is the Ibanez M80M. It is one of two signature guitars from the legendary metal band Meshuggah. You might have already seen my unboxing of this guitar, and in this video what I'm going to do is show you how this guitar sounds in a full demo mix, a few solo tone clips, talk about the specs and features, and of course, last but not least, talk about my thoughts and opinions on this guitar as well. Before we get into the full demo, I have to give a massive thank you to the sponsor of this video, Sweetwater. I have been looking for this guitar for a very long time, and a few of them finally came in stock on Sweetwater. I texted my friend Josh, who works there, and he hooked me up, so I want to give Sweetwater a massive thank you for sponsoring this video and sending the guitar over to me. If you're interested in buying this guitar or pretty much any other piece of music gear you can possibly think of, Sweetwater is by far the best website to do that. So there's going to be a link to this guitar on Sweetwater's site in the pinned comment and the description below. And if you buy anything on Sweetwater using that link, it's an affiliate link, so I get a little bit of your purchase, which helps my channel greatly. With that being said, let's get on to the full demo. I recorded a mini clip of the song Nebulous by Meshuggah. This guitar is tuned all the way down to drop D sharp, and it sounds like this. Okay, so now that you've heard how the Ibanez M80M sounds in a full demo mix, we're going to talk about the specs and features of this instrument. Also, by the way, another thank you to Auto Audio for partially sponsoring this video. If you liked the guitar tones that you just heard, I was using their 1111 plugin, which you can also find a link to in the description below. There's a free trial of this plugin, so go download the free trial and also get 11 free impulse responses, which you can keep forever. And in addition to that, there is a discount code on the screen right now for 55% off for their Black Friday sale. It's called Lower Heavier, of course. So the M80M is obviously an 8-string guitar. It is one of, if not the first ever signature guitar that is an 8-string from Ibanez, or at least that I'm aware of. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. So this is, of course, Ibanez's RG shape. We are looking at a swamp ash body, which has an awesome, very thin black finish on it. So you can see a little bit of the wood grain peeking through here and there. It looks really nice and simple. It also has a satin finish, which I think looks really nice, especially for videos. Sometimes gloss finishes in videos reflect my light really badly, so I like satin a lot. I also like the feel of satin. Anyways, so very simple body. We also have a single bridge pickup, which is the Lundgren M8 pickup. This pickup sounds brutal. I have it in a few of my other 8 strings. It's always sounded good. One of the features of this guitar, which isn't really highlighted on Ibanez's website, but I think is important to note, is how close this bridge pickup is to the bridge. That is something that really affects the tone, in my opinion, and having it this close makes this thing sound absolutely beastly, even if they don't really advertise that as a feature. We also have the FX Edge bridge right here. So a lot of people think that this is a floating bridge. It is not a floating bridge. It is a hardtail, but it operates the same way as a Floyd, which we're going to talk about that later, and if you've been on my channel before, you already know what I'm going to say about that. We also have two knobs, a single volume knob, a single tone knob. Love that. Moving on to the neck of the guitar, we are looking at a Jatoba fretboard, and the nice thing about Sweetwater's website is there's actually a gallery where you can see each individual guitar. So I picked the one where the Jatoba fretboard was the darkest personally because I like how that looks. On my other Meshuggah signature guitar, wow, that's a phrase. The Jatoba fretboard is a lot lighter and almost like orange, so I think that this one looks a lot better, and I like that I was able to select that on Sweetwater's website, just saying. Anyways, the neck is also a 29.4 inch scale, which is absolutely ridiculous. Ibanez does not normally do this. If I'm not mistaken, this is the only A-string that has that scale length. Every single other one they make is 27 inches, and I think their fanfare one is like 27.2 inches or something weird like that. But 29.4 definitely does not happen often for Ibanez, and it sounds sick, and it's why you're able to tune so low like drop D sharp with no problem. Flipping over to the back of the neck, we also have, of course, a 5-piece neck, which is maple with walnut stringers, and just Ibanez's own tuners at the top. Not locking tuners, unfortunately, which I guess they chose not to do because it does have a locking nut here as well, which I have personally taken off because, again, we're going to talk about it later, but I don't actually think it does anything, or at least not anything significant enough to warrant having it there. But that's my opinion, and we'll talk about that later. Other than that, this guitar also comes with a very simple gig bag. I'm not even going to bother showing it. It's enough to protect it if you're like throwing it in your car or something like that, but definitely not to take it on tour or on the road. And by default, this guitar comes with 9 to 64 strings for the 8-string set. I have chosen to beef that up a little bit, and I'm using a 10 to 56 and then a single 80. I know I don't normally talk about string gauges, but I know that you guys are going to want to know them, so there you go. Okay, now that you know the specs and features of this guitar, I'm going to show you a few soloed tone clips. We're going to do a high gain rhythm tone using the Auto Audio 1111 plugin, and then I'm going to show a very simple lead and a very simple clean tone. I'm sure most of you just want to hear that heavy high gain rhythm tone though, so we're going to do that first right now. Okay, now that you've heard how this guitar sounds on its own, the last thing to do, of course, is talk about my thoughts and opinions on this instrument. Now, I think it's pretty obvious by this point in the video that I obviously really like this guitar. I love almost everything about it except for the bridge, which I'm sure you could see that coming. But yeah, the 29.4 inch scale length is super sick, especially for tuning extra low. Usually when I play an 8-string, I'm in like drop E tuning, but for stuff that's like lower than E, a longer scale length is definitely helpful. So this sounded really good in D sharp, which I had it in this video, and I bet it'll sound good even lower, like up to maybe like C sharp or maybe even B. I think it would handle it no problem, and that is sick. Also, the Lundgren pickup never disappoints. It sounded amazing in every single guitar I've ever had it in, and this is no exception. And like I mentioned earlier, the fact that this pickup is so close to the bridge, I think does help the tone a little bit. It gives a lot more clarity and like bite or something like that. I don't know, pickup buzzwords, take your pick. But yeah, anyways, I really like this guitar. The only thing I don't like I mentioned earlier, is the bridge. I personally don't see any benefit to having this bridge and locking nut system on this guitar. It's not a Floyd Rose, it's not a floating bridge, it's a hardtail bridge, and I understand that this is the first 8-string bridge that Ibanez ever made, which maybe Meshuggah's guitarists are just so used to it they wanted to keep it, or maybe they know something I don't know. But I personally think this bridge kinda isn't great. Functionally, it's perfectly fine. It does all the things you need it to do, but it's just over-engineered and over-complicated for what it actually is, which at the end of the day is a hardtail bridge. I vastly prefer Ibanez's other hardtail bridge option, which is on the more updated RG852 Prestige model, which I'll show on the screen right now. I have one of those too. So yeah, I don't really like this bridge because there's just so many points of failure, because it's like you have to lock the string in here, you have to cut the ball end off the string to feed it through there. Sometimes the low string is a little too thick for this bridge piece, so you have to like literally hammer the string to make it thinner to get in there, which is very annoying. And again, if I was on tour, I don't want to be doing all that. I just want to put a string through the body, pull it up, locking tuner, cut it, done. It's just way more simple having that, you know, modern hardtail bridge. So again, I don't want to harp on this too much, but I don't really like this bridge. And again, it's functionally fine. It does all the things. It's just inconvenient. That's all. And again, if this guitar ends up being a keeper, what I would probably do is honestly never put the locking nut back on ever, and just put locking tuners instead, and just don't use the fine tuners. That's honestly how I would use it if, you know, I choose to keep this guitar forever and I think it's worth modding. But since this is brand new, I'm obviously not going to do all that right now. Even though this guitar has a very simple finish, being that, you know, satin black over swamp ash, it's just a pretty timeless look. It always looks good, and I bet the more you use this guitar, the more that'll wear really nicely and give it that road worn look, which I think would look sick as well. And yeah, overall, pretty much no surprises with this guitar. It does exactly what I thought it was going to do. It does it extremely well, and the only part I didn't think I would like, I didn't like, but I knew that going into it, and it's not a big enough deal breaker for me to care, because clearly I love everything else about this guitar. Now, before we move on, I wanted to mention this guitar as well. So this is the other Ibanez signature model. This is the FTM33. I already had this guitar. I bought it back in like 2021 or 2022. I still love this guitar as well, but it's interesting having both different Meshuggah signature models. I don't think there are that many people that probably have both. So I know that some people were asking me for my thoughts and opinions comparing the two, and what I would say is they feel very similar in terms of the neck feel. Obviously, with the M80M being a longer neck, it is a little harder to play because everything is a bit farther of a stretch. So this one is a little easier to play in terms of the fretboard feel, but I do think that the body shape of the RG feels way better, even though this looks really sick and I love it, and I love 8-string guitars that are not super strats. This one definitely is a bit inconvenient because it is a very, very big guitar, and so is the other one, but because of the neck. But yeah, really the main comparison I would say is just if you want something that's a little bit easier to, you know, play leads on, this one would be way easier. It also does have the neck pickup, but in terms of feel, fit, and finish, and like the overall quality, I would say that both are pretty much the same. I don't really know which of the two I like more yet, because I love how this one looks way more personally, but I do think that the M80M sounds slightly better because of that extra scale length, and you can be the judge. So what I'm going to do now is play the FTM33 and the M80M back to back. These both have the exact same string gauge set, again being 10 to 56 plus 80, same pickup, and other than the body shapes and scale lengths being different, they're basically the same guitar. So I'm going to show you those two back to back on a high gain rhythm tone, because I know some people will want to hear that. It sounds like this. And yeah, after playing them back to back, the only other thing I noticed is it does feel like the neck on the M80M is a little bit more pronounced in the shoulders. What I mean by that is it feels like more of a U and less like a C. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I don't know if that's just my brain playing tricks on me because this one is a longer scale length, but that is how I feel about the two guitars. And now you've heard how they sound back to back. Okay, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching this video. And again, a massive thank you to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video. If you want to buy yourself one of these guitars or any other piece of music gear, go check out Sweetwater's website. It's on the description below. And again, don't forget to download the free trial of Auto Audio's 1111 plugin, which is also linked in the description below. And last but not least, a massive thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen like these lovely people here, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page, which is once again linked in the description below. That's right. Okay, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you soon.